Well, joining us in studio this afternoon to discuss this further is the ANC national spokesperson, Mr. Zizi Kodwa. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us here on ANN7. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of debate around the ANC's action against Makhosi Khoza. Just talk us through the thought process and how this action was taken. What's the thought behind this?
I think we have come to appreciate that she's now an attention seeker. And I think she's a fifth column. A fifth column is nothing else but somebody internally in the organization. It is a term used in military terms that you must turn against, but destroy within, but be among them. And I think she has got her handlers that we have failed to destroy the ANC from outside. Whether you're talking about a weak opposition, which has tried since 1994, continue to try to destroy the ANC, but they've appreciated that they will hijack and actually use some who are very useful like her to destroy what she claims to be her own organization. Politically, when you join the African National Congress, you sign what is called an oath of membership. You commit yourselves to the programs and policies of the African National Congress. You subject yourself, including committing yourselves, that you shall be loyal to the decisions of the African National Congress. That is the first start of what is meant to be a disciplined member of the ANC. And what it means is that, among others, there may be decisions you don't like in the African National Congress. But for the sake of the African National Congress, because you have signed an oath of membership. So for her, it's not about the ANC. We now know that already what she's looking for is a soft landing, that there must be some credibility when she leaves the ANC. Long before the 8th of August, the noise she has been making, we never seen this courage on her behalf internally in the African National Congress. She was a delegate at the National Policy Conference held recently. She never said a word in the policy conference where she would have confronted this courage that was seen in public, that displayed internally in the organization. She was not bold enough. If we were to force forward to last week, when we met with the caucus represented by the Secretary General, addressed the caucus of the ANC before a vote of no confidence to the president, which in our view was not a vote of no confidence to the president, but to dislodge the ANC. She was part of the caucus. She was not bold enough to raise these issues that she's raising in public. And President Zuma was there. She should have had a courage to raise the issues they're raising on the face of the president. So what we see here is publicity stunt, is attention seeker, whom in our view has already been hijacked by what is called, given a function as a fifth column that we must destroy from within. Our lesson to her, a free lesson, is that there are many others who have tried to destroy the ANC in the past, have failed, many of whom recently as a COPE. That was a real threat to the ANC because it was led by the leaders of the ANC. Today, we're talking about COPE, one man called Lekota. You cannot destroy the African National Congress, whether she regards herself as an academic intellectual or intellectual in the ANC and the rest are not. She has no capacity to destroy the African National Congress because no individual is above the ANC.
You say that she wasn't brave enough to speak out against these issues earlier this year, but she is speaking about them now. Is the ANC taking anything that she's saying into consideration? I mean, she's saying that she's speaking out against corruption within the ruling party and so forth, state capture and so forth. Will the ANC be taking what she's saying into consideration?
There are many others who have raised. There are many others who have raised those issues.
Okay.
If you're talking about the call for the president to step down, it's not a rumor, it's not a hearsay which was raised by her or anybody. It's been discussed internally in the organization, including the highest structure, the African National Congress. Those who are courageous enough have raised that issue internally in the organization, and they've been defeated in the organization internally. So she can't make herself as a queen as though that she raises an issue that anybody cannot raise internally. Those hard issues have been raised in the organization. And I'm saying, practically what she has become to be is that courage we see from her outside. We don't see that courage internally in the organization. The issue has never been between us and her, what she raises in public, but it's her conduct. That's why even the charges, if you read the charges from KZN against her, it's not about what the issues are raising, but it's her conduct. Because many other people have raised those issues. So we're not in a wish hunt of everybody who talks about ANC in public, but the conduct of an ANC member, informed by what I've said earlier. You have signed an oath of membership, almost saying to the organization, I become part of this organization and therefore I'm loyal to its decision. You cannot become, we're not an organization of agents who all of a sudden they want to act according to their individual conscience, not political conscience of the organization, and they want to describe themselves above the organization. We have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the organization. People who are used, like her, by handlers. Already we know that she's leaving for DA. We know that there's been discussions that the only way you must push the ANC and irritate the ANC internally to a point where they must expel you, because she doesn't want voluntarily to leave the ANC. The only credibility is that the ANC must act. We're not an organization of cowards. We'll subject her to a fair process. So
but she has said that she's not planning to leave the ANC. She says she will continue to fight within the ANC. She says she's not
we are ready for her. I mean, we are faced with 249 members. We're not dealing with only one member. She thinks it's above the African National Congress. She will face the wrath of the African National Congress in terms of its discipline. And whatever display she may be trending today, she can trend for 365 days a year. But she's not above the African National Congress. Many others became popular. They are trending every day because they were still within the ANC. They were ministers. They were trending every day. They are no longer trending now because they are not ministers. As long as you are no longer wearing the cloth of black, green, and gold, you become irrelevant, even from the social media. So she may become what she is today because she stands on the ticket of being the African National Congress. Soon she leaves the ANC, she'll become irrelevant to anybody.
Is the ANC treating Dr. Makhosi Khoza differently because she is a woman? She stated this. She said that the likes of Mr. Derek Hanekom, the likes of Mr. Gungubera, no disciplinary action has been taken against them, but disciplinary action is taken against her. Is it because she's female? We
will not be blackmailed because of the sexual orientation of anybody. If you're a member of the ANC, you're a member of the ANC. If you're ill-disciplined, you're ill-disciplined, a man or a woman. People are talking about already, we've indicated from the National Working Committee without giving names, that there are 3 or 4 individuals post-voting that they have declared boldly, that themselves they declared in public that they voted in favor of the motion. We said those individuals, at least we must deal with them in the context of restoring disciplinary action of the processes of the organization. She's among them. She has gone out in public to say, I voted in favor of the opposition. And we think that as an organization, we've got a responsibility because she's daring what is called, if we ignore that kind of conduct, it means we're ignoring the essence of the organization. The essence of any organization is party discipline. If we allow people to go around and mobilize for ill discipline in the organization, so be it, there will not be any ANC. We've got a responsibility. Let heavens fall if people were to act against ill discipline. But the worst thing that the leadership of the ANC must not do, because the injunction of the National Policy Conference is that you must be intolerant to ill discipline. If we tolerate this behavior of Makhosi Khoza, we must forget about the African National Congress.
You do have a responsibility, Mr. Khoza, but what about then those other 20-plus ANC MPs who voted against the party, who voted against President Jacob Zuma in that motion of no confidence? How is that issue dealt with?
Will not be engaged in a witch hunt. You remember our submission following the Concord ruling. The Speaker of Parliament invited all parties represented in Parliament. Make a submission in terms of how would you like my determination in terms of the secret or open secret, whatever. From a point of view of the ANC, we took a principled position that firstly, we'll support any decision, Speaker, you take, whether it's in terms of secret ballot or not a secret ballot. Because we're confident enough, not being arrogant, that will defeat the motion. And indeed, we defeated the motion. As to whether people voted in what way in the African National Congress, for us is irrelevant because we're not going to be engaged in a witch hunt. We don't know those 29 how they voted. But those who are bold enough, even after voting, who state in public that they voted against the motion, yet they know the party line. Because people like her, they were not bold enough in the caucus of the ANC that will vote against this in favor of this motion because we disagree, we don't like this president. President Zuma was sitting there. Where was this courage that we see in public? So clearly, we are talking about cowards. We have no interest of the African National Congress. That's why we must hit one to teach others. Makhosi Khoza is not removed from the position because of her utterances before the voting. The relationship between her and members of that committee are irretrievable. So we are faced with 2 options. It's either we keep that committee as it were, with her as a chairperson, and therefore that committee must remain dysfunctional in terms of its oversight. If we want that committee to work, we do not only remove her, we are reconfiguring the whole committee, including the 5 members of the committee who for some reason, including Minister Faith Mutambi, did not attend the sitting of that committee. All of them, they will discipline. That's why we are reconfiguring the whole committee, because it's not about her. The entire committee, from the ANC point of view, needs to be reconfigured because the relationship between members of the committee and the chairperson, who's Makhosi Khoza, is irretrievable.
Yes, the ANC won the motion of no confidence, but did the ANC expect 20 plus MPs to vote against their own government? And is there not a concern that if you don't deal with those 20 plus MPs, more and more MPs will vote against their own party come the future because there's no discipline?
The essence of secret ballot means that you can vote against me and yet you are my wife, or you committed that you will vote with me. So you will not know exactly who voted unless you engage on some witch hunt. I mean, there were crazy suggestions that somewhere before we met as the National Working Committee of lie detectors and so on. We can't degenerate as a National Liberation Movement to that level. People have voted in whatever way. We must deal with that politically. What are the permutations of that? Politically is a reflection of what? Where members of the ANC were MPs who are revolting against the... Is it a sign of rebellion? Is it a sign of dissent? You must deal with that issue politically. Or has it gone beyond just ill-discipline? So you must be meticulous politically how you must engage dissent. Because dissent is just simply engage and apply discipline. Because you must uproot dissent politically from the organization so that you understand its depth in the organization. So the 20 so is fine, unless they are bold enough to raise their head again after voting, like Makhosi Khoza, and say, I voted in favor of the motion. We must cut their head when they raise their head after the voting, because that in itself, it undermines the restoration of the party discipline.
Is the ANC concerned about 2019 and concerned about the future? Yesterday we heard from the leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mr. Musi Maimane, stating that the ANC cannot self-correct. The ANC is too far gone. What is the ANC's response to that media briefing we saw
The reason
yesterday?
the ANC will always be trending is that not only must it speak through its voices like the Secretary General or the spokesperson Zizi Kodwa or its officials, Zizi Kodwa, Comrade President and so on, even opposition leaders, whenever they open their mouths, the first thing they mention is African National Congress. That's why we're a durable brand. No leader of the opposition can say a sentence without saying African National Congress. Not only we're a threat, we're the only relevant organization in the African continent. They'll continue to wish that they will defeat the African National Congress. For some reason, they went to take Maimane, a junior from the TA who had no political experience, to make him a leader in order to mask what the Democratic Alliance represent. They failed in 2014. That's why they continue to insult us even today, including using the judiciary to undermine the outcome of the overwhelming mandate of our electoral mandate. In 2019, the African National Congress will emerge as a majority party. But the African National Congress will never hide that we are faced with serious challenges internally. We must deal with those issues. But our people are watching us. They continue to say, we are the only ANC, remember, we are our only hope. And therefore correct what needs to be corrected. That's why the injunction of the policy conference was that we must be intolerant to ill-discipline, among others. We must be intolerant to corruption. We must be intolerant to factionalism, because our people are watching that you can't fight. This is not your own organization. The ANC is not a property of leaders or members of the African National Congress. It's a property of the people of South Africa, and our conduct must reflect that.
Indeed it must. With regards to the Democratic Alliance's latest call to dissolve Parliament and to call for early elections, is there any reaction from the ANC side with regards
No, it explains exactly our conception of the earlier so-called vote of no confidence. Our view was that it's not a vote of no confidence against President Zuma. It was meant to dislodge and to collapse government. And that desperate attempt was defeated and failed. Now, this desperate attempt again of a hypocritical and chameleon party, such as the Democratic Alliance, again is an attempt to undermine the overwhelming electoral mandate of our people. They are failing to accept, firstly, the outcomes of defeat. They failed to accept the outcomes of 2014 elections. They are still living in an illusion that 2014, the ANC, for some imaginary things, for magical reasons, the ANC won. The ANC still enjoys overwhelmingly the support, the hearts and minds of the people of this country. Of course, even their friends now in the opposition. They were taken by surprise by this suggestion. Of course, we know now that even Maimane did not consult broadly within the federal executive. Even members of the TA were surprised by this move. Young man with no experience of running a political party who is excited. For him, this is nothing else but political adventurism.
Mr. Kodwa, on a point of clarity, will the ANC be taking action against the likes of Mr. Derek Hanekom? What is the plan of action there? Just on a point of clarity.
We have said very clear that we're not going to be engaged on a wish hunt, including the 3 members we have mentioned in the National Executive Committee. We have not said in public who are those members, because part of the process, we don't want to apply TC with our eyes blinded. We want to make sure that we're meticulous. These days, members of the ANC can take it to court. You know about many court cases. We want to talk to those 3 members as we are doing now with Makhosi Khoza.
Okay.
We've written letters to talk to them first to say, Comrade Derek Warekom, we're worried about your tweets, about now as a chair of the DC. A DC that is expected its chairperson to be above reproach. You must deal with this ill discipline in the organization you see. How would you deal with this ill discipline if, among others, yourselves, there are certain things that, in our view, constitute ill discipline? We'll talk to him. We'll talk to others with whom we have identified that they must explain themselves based on their explanation. The next step in terms of action, whether it will go DC or we may be satisfied about the explanation, there will be no need of a next step to take.
Was that same process followed with Dr. Makhosi Khoza?
In relation to removing her as a member of the chair of the committee? No, that issue is 2 different processes.
Okay.
We're talking about her in terms of outspokenness and even the fact that she declared that she voted with the opposition in favor. That is a separate issue. What we are dealing with in terms of removing her, we are reconfiguring the committee, in which we have found that, among others, if we were to keep her as a chairperson of the committee, the relationship between her and members of the committee is irretrievable. That committee will remain dysfunctional.
And what about her position as an ANC MP?
She remains a member of the MP of the African National Congress. We're not cowards. We'll subject her to a due process, and we must be fair in our process. That's why she's bold enough, we welcome that she's prepared to subject herself to the fair processes of the ANC. We are ready for her, because I think we've got enough evidence to prove that she has undermined the authority of the African National Congress. She has put the name of the African National Congress into disrepute. She continues to be the darling to address platforms which in themselves, her utterances, undermine the authority of the ANC and attack the brand African National Congress in her addresses as a member of the ANC. But we'll be patient, because we want to subject her to what she has called for, due processes of the African National Congress.
Mr. Kodwa, just shifting gears a bit, this is Women's Month. We've seen President Jacob Zuma commemorating Women's Day. We've seen the ANC Women's League speaking out against abuse against women. You're probably preempting my next question, but South Africans are outraged at what happened at Cubana with Mr. Mduduzi Manana assaulting a South African woman. People are saying the ANC is not doing enough with regards to that case. South African police is not doing enough. What's happening there?
No, you must remember that Mr. Manana is now charged. So it's not true that police are not doing enough. But secondly, from an ANC point of view, following the NWC, Mr. Manana will follow the due processes of the African National Congress in terms of disciplinary processes. So there is already a decision by the ANC to subject him to DC of the ANC. You must remember, he does not hold any leadership position in the African National Congress. Let me tell you the difference. If he was a chairperson of a branch, a regional leader of the ANC, we would have said, step aside, not resign. Step aside, because we're dealing with these issues. But he's now in government. I can't speak on behalf of the president. I can't speak on behalf of government. I can't speak on behalf of the executive or how they must deal with such issue. But from a point of view of the ANC, we're going to subject him to DC.
Okay. And another issue that's come to the fore recently is the issue of the First Lady of Zimbabwe, Grace Mugabe, allegedly assaulting a 20-year-old model in Sandton. Does the ANC have any reaction with regards to that and the process that needs to be followed?
She must face the full wrath of the law in South Africa. We're not a banana republic where everybody can just invoke diplomatic immunity. If those issues, when she came, it means everybody can just come and do as they wish.
Exactly.
When they are found on the wrong side of the law, I invoke my diplomatic immunity. Those issues, we hope our authorities are dealing with that issue. We are observing that issue, but we think we've got laws. Our domestic laws must be respected, including our relations with whoever country that comes to South Africa, that our domestic laws, but we must protect equally the rights, particularly in this month. We must be seen to be, not to be unshaken and unfazed about protecting the rights of women who are very vulnerable. For anybody of her stature, come from her country to come and do what she did, it's wrong. That's why she must face the wrath of the law.
What is your reaction then to people who are of the view that the ANC government is tiptoeing around the situation in order to salvage relations between South Africa and Zimbabwe?
Well, I'm sure there are issues of relations that are being dealt with. I'm not aware of the African National Congress. That's why we don't instruct the government of what it must do. There are issues of protocol, there are issues of international relations, there are issues of bilaterals between country to country. As to whether those issues, first and foremost, does she qualify for diplomatic immunity, I don't know. Okay. There are certain authorities in government that can explain to what an extent that applies to somebody who commits crime in terms of what are the domestic laws in that country in relation to diplomatic immunity. Those issues we're watching. But it is important that we must be clear that nobody has got a right to cross the river or to jump any sea to come and commit crime in South Africa and yet invoke a diplomatic immunity when she or he has to face the wrath of the law in that country.
Just lastly, Mr. Kodwa, I just want your reaction with regards to those 5 MPs going back now who boycotted that parliamentary committee meeting where Dr. Makhosi Khoza was meant to engage and speak. Those MPs who boycotted, is action being taken against them? What is the process that's being followed?
We are taking action. That action is guided by the rules in terms of caucus of the ANC, including the minister who was supposed to appear on that day. Minister Faith is part of those MPs who must answer to the caucus of the ANC, because the study group of the ANC can't be the disciplinary committee of the ANC. They can't constitute themselves as a DC because for some reason they've got issues with the chairperson. Those issues are matters of the African National Congress, either through caucus or whatever structure. They had no right to do so. That's why we're not only dealing with removing the chair of the committee, we are reconfiguring the whole committee, because to keep them as well in that committee, it may send a wrong signal.
Yeah, you did say. Also, just one more question with regards to what's happening in the ANC in KZN. We still saw the ANC yesterday taking itself to court. What was the issue there, and how is the ANC, the national body, reacting to this sort of conduct?
It is always regrettable that people who are unhappy in the ANC for one process to another, they take their own organization to court. But because exactly it will be read as ANC versus ANC.
Yes.
It's quite unfortunate. But of course, we do respect our constitutional democracy, that people have got a right to take whatever issue they feel aggrieved about, because courts are final arbiters. We can't make final comment because that issue now is before court and the judgment is reserved. But our view is that perhaps that issue would have been dealt much better internally in the organization. It's now in the public glare.
Yes,
it has sent a very strong signal about ability of the ANC or inability to self-correct, but also to manage its own intra-differences.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kodwa. Let's leave it there for now. We appreciate you talking to us and joining us in studio this afternoon. That was the ANC national spokesperson, Mr. Zizi Kodwa, just joining us in studio, chatting to us about a number of issues, amongst them how the situation around Dr. Makhosi Khoza has been handled. But stay tuned to ANN7. We are going to keep you up to date with the latest details and developments.